just like that. I think we're live. The timer's working, so and the recording is recording, so we're good to go. Mike Forsey with Payntr Golf Shoes. Mike, thank you for coming on the show. I know you're a little under the weather. It's that time of year, but making it work, and I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Yeah, happy to be here.
The big talk in golf right now, or coming up, at least for the masses, is the PGA show here in about less than 2 weeks now. I believe 23rd is the demo day, and then the show floor the rest of the week. I'm imagining and assuming that you guys are going to be there this year with your product and showing it to the world and the masses.
Yeah, we are. We're at a point now in our brand development that we have our own booth this year. So we've got a 20 by 20, pretty substantial booth. We've been at the PGA show the last 2 years, but we've been there with a partner. But this year, it's the first time that we're going to be at the show on our own. So you'll be able to find Payntr Golf in the directory this year, which is nice.
Well, I'll be there this year for the first time in many years, so I'll be sure to come by it. I just, I've had friends in some smaller club companies that I used to play for when I was playing, and went with a couple times they went to the show. Whoever ran it, they weren't a name brand, so they got stuck back in the corner. I hope they give you a great spot with a lot of traffic.
We're in 1901. We're right there, an entry. Yeah. So So
any of the pros or anyone going to attend the show this year, be sure to go by booth 1901. They got some very, very cool stuff, and you can see it behind you, all the different models and the product that you have. It's a very cool thing, and it's kind of what attracted me to you guys as I was scrolling through social media and just I seemed to catch one of your posts, and I'm like, wow, these are pretty cool. These look sleek. They look cool. They're hip. They're very athletic. And when you guys got to formulate your company, I think you're about 3 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Well, 4 now. We're in 2004.
Yeah, shipping product for 3 years. Yeah.
Was the focus to make more athletic type shoe because you saw that was the way the industry was going, or did the development or your vision of the creative side of you just say, hey, I think this is the design I'll go with because that's what I kind of see in my head?
I think that the niche we saw was more around not necessarily about the aesthetic of the product, but more around the performance on, if you think about other golf footwear manufacturers, they'll look at footwear as a fashion item or an accessory to their apparel offering. What we saw as an opportunity is, think about all the coaches that you've spoken to. They talk about using the ground as leverage. So how can we, and your feet and your shoes are the only thing in contact with the ground, how can we as a golf footwear manufacturer, how do we make it easier for the golfer to leverage ground reaction forces, to harness those ground reaction forces? So what we started the brand on and how we've positioned ourselves in the last 4 years is we look at what happens biomechanically during the golf swing. Mm-hmm. It happens in your traction needs are in 3 dimension. So it's rotational. So your feet are twisting out from under you. It's horizontal. So your weight is shifting. And then it's vertical where you're pushing into the ground and you want that energy, that responsiveness so that you can bring more power to the ball. So if other manufacturers are looking at it from a fashion perspective, we wanted to make sure to separate ourselves to look at it from a performance perspective. How can we bring a better performance to the golfer, that same golfer that's looking for, the newest driver, the newest ball, the newest set of irons? So we think about golf footwear and the development of our line like an equipment company would think about how they bring product to market. We think about what's the performance advantage that we can bring to the athlete, to the golfer. Mm-hmm. And the aesthetic part of it comes after. It's not like we don't think about it. It's just that we want to make sure we get the performance piece of it right first, and then we move into the aesthetic. So it's evolved into more of an athletic silhouette or an athletic direction. But that doesn't mean going forward we wouldn't move it into more of a modern classic or a technical classic silhouette direction as well. So, but that was a good question.
Yeah, and I asked that because I see some of your competitors shifting away from the old school dress shoe look to the more, I guess what was it called going back a number of years ago? Dress casual Fridays or whatever it was at offices, and people could wear jeans and sneakers and things like that to work. It is shifting that way. But you are the first person I've talked to outside of the club companies who said that we looked at performance first and then we're going to build a shoe around that. I mean, you hear a lot of car companies talk about those things, Mercedes and obviously Tesla nowadays, and the products that they come up with are absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
I have not worn your shoes. No one that I found around here carries them yet. I think one of the local golf shops said that they were talking with you guys about starting to bring them in this year. As we talked in the pre-show, you guys are really, really growing quickly. But they're very, very cool. I mean, anybody, and of course, for every guest, the links to your all your sites and your website and your social media will be in there. Everyone can check them out.
Yeah. You know what? When you think about too, golf is unlike any other sport in that, if you play basketball, you might play for an hour. If you run, if you're a good runner, for me, I'm like a plotter. So it's, half hour, 40 minutes and, I'm out of my running shoes. But golfers are in their golf shoes for a long time. Even if you play 9 holes, and nowadays you can put your shoes on at home, drive to the golf course, might hit some balls beforehand, play, even 9 holes, or if you play 18 holes, you could be in your shoes for, 4 to 6, 8 hours. Tour players are in their shoes for, 10 to 12 hours every day. Mm-hmm. So comfort is huge. And, when everything that we do, we look at comfort holistically, because if you think about comfort in your footwear, it can be many things. It can be the fit of the product, the weight, the environment inside the shoe, the flexibility, underfoot cushioning, like all of those things contribute. So when we're choosing materials, or when we're choosing construction, or even our fit, we want to make sure that everything we do is going to contribute to comfort. The last thing, I think when I first started in the business, one of my mentors said to me, if you ruin a golfer's round because they have to walk off because their shoes are uncomfortable, you will never get them back. Never. So comfort has always, for whatever reason, I've been in the business for over 30 years. We always focus on comfort first, because I don't want to ruin anyone's round. I personally play golf. I don't want to have to walk off the golf course. But it's comfort, traction, and waterproofing. Those are the keys in what we do and how we create product.
I was listening to you on another someone else's podcast, and they were relatively short, but I was very not that it means anything from me, but I was very impressed with your background in the shoe industry, and I believe from the time you graduated college, you've always been in that's been your career.
Yep.
And worked at some very, very impressive places. I'm not going to put their names out there. Then we're here talking about Payntr.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I will bring up, one of the places you worked and people that you worked with, if I remember correctly, because I'm a big documentary guy, mm-hmm. and I was watching a documentary called Abstract, and there were, I believe it was 8 different storylines in there. They had the fellow who did the cartoons for the New Yorker magazine and how he came up with his ideas. They had a photographer who had photographed more world leaders and celebrities than anybody in history, and he had a very unique way of doing it. But the one that I found most intriguing, and what really got me interested, because of golf, and you wear shoes, and as you mentioned, you're in them all day, was the one on Tinker Hatfield. I thought that was absolutely fascinating. His story and how he got into shoe design, and almost by accident. He was an architect by education. But if I'm not mistaken, you worked at Nike? You work. I couldn't follow if you work in collaboration with him or under him or next to him, or. I just need to ask you that as a kind of a selfish portion of the show because
No.
big fan of his.
I knew Tinker, and he consulted on the first Tiger Woods product that we had done. Never had the pleasure of working with Tinker. I was there for 16 years, 13 of which were in golf, 10 of which we worked on the Tiger Woods signature shoe. We only had the pleasure to work with Tinker our first year when he consulted, and he's a busy guy. So, but he has a really interesting background. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I had Charlie Hudak on. Do you know Charlie?
I do not.
Charlie was in the sneaker design business, and then the first golf company that I know that he worked for was Puma, and then I believe a year or two ago he was with FootJoy, and now he's with TaylorMade. I think they're designing, or in the process of designing a shoe.
Yep.
But Charlie's background was also, I think, in was it urban planning and some type of architecture and that, and it shifted into shoes. But Charlie and I talked for about 2.5 hours about everything from ice baths to materials and shoe design and everything. But I had mentioned it. I sent him a note that you were coming on. He said he's a very, very nice guy. You're going to have a great time with him.
Well, I think Charlie knows my partner, Mike Clancy.
Okay.
So, he's our creative director. Yeah. And a co-founder of Payntr Golf. So I know they know each other. They're both I'm from back east as well, but they're both from the Boston area. So.
Yeah. He did say he was friends with him, but he did say that he spoke very highly of you from mutual friends, and he reached out. I do have, I'm not out as much. Again, I haven't been to the PGA show in years, but I'm getting back into the golf world on a more regular basis. And it's because it's fun. I get to meet a wide array of people in what I do now. But my tentacle reach is very far. I've been doing this for a long time, not podcasting, but I've been in and around the golf business for 40 years. So
yeah,
you just meet people. Yeah, it is.
I've always felt pretty lucky for, being able to, I make golf shoes for a living. Like how much better could it get than that? It's like, that's what we do every day. It's like Christmas morning when we get samples delivered. It's like, it really is. And it's, it happens probably 25 times a year. So I'm truly blessed to have this as a career.
So when you get up in the morning, you don't have to have the David Goggins mindset of you got to grind, you're going to get through the day. You're excited to get into work and design shoes and work with products.
I do not. If anything, my wife tells me that, could you stop working? I don't think about it as work. It's not, it's fun. It's not brain surgery. It's not, life or death for sure. We're making golf shoes. It's fun. So
what was the gravitation towards golf shoes once you got out of school?
I didn't start in golf footwear. I started in running and training. And, I don't know what it was. When I was in high school and college, I worked at a retail clothing store that also sold footwear. And I always ended up in the footwear area. And, I started a collection at my house. My parents still remember that well. The latest of whatever came out and I had to have it. And, when I graduated from college, I graduated on a Sunday and I went to work for an athletic footwear company on Monday. Wow. And I've never looked back. I've been at 5 or 6 different athletic footwear brands. Now I have the opportunity to work on something that's our own, but, it's truly been, a lifetime of just, I've never looked at it as work. It's fun every day.
That's very cool. I would have to say you're in a very small minority in that.
Exactly. Yeah. My brother gives me a hard time about that too. Yeah. What are you doing today? You golfing? Is that what you're doing? No, I'm actually working. Yes. We have payroll.
You guys, your brand, your first shoe was spikeless. If I'm not mistaken. Was there a reason that you went to spikeless instead of the spike to right out of the gate?
Just the size of the opportunity globally. So right now, the last time you looked. I'll back up. When I started in the business, spikeless was less than 5% of what was sold.
Mm-hmm.
So 95% spiked. And then in 97, the USGA, RNA mandated, no more posted spikes in the ground. It's kind of gone back and forth. At a point in time, it was 50-50 spiked to spikeless. And now I think it's kind of dropping in at about 75% spikeless and 25% spiked. And that's globally. We do business in Asia, we do business in Europe, and that's pretty much. So we looked at it as, we'll look at the biggest opportunity first, and then we'll look at spike. So we launched spikeless first, and then 18 months into it, we launched our first spike product.
Do you think that would that the more business casual that we kind of touched on earlier, that used to be on Fridays, is now kind of more prevalent in the business world, with more people working from home and just corporations being more lax, that people can wear their golf shoes more places now? So that's helped that.
100% about versatility. Yeah. And the product, the spikeless product that was available when I started in the business was basically a turf shoe. It was like, we'll take this and we'll try to make it somewhat appropriate for golf. Now, what's in the marketplace, what we offer is truly about performance. It's, the use of materials. We look at the nub design and how they prevent rotation, and, how they grasp the ground, dig into the ground. But I think at the end of the day, to your point, it's versatility. I can wear them from home. I can wear them in the car. I can wear them on the golf course. If I have to meet somebody after I play golf, I can still wear them. So, so I think it's definitely about versatility. We look at go ahead.
If you get pulled over for speeding, you can tell the policeman that you're the way that the spikes are designed or ground reaction, and then that's why you press the accelerator a little faster on that.
I'm harnessing ground reaction forces in my car.
As far as a design aspect, is between the spiked and the spikeless, is there much of a different design outside of the sole that goes onto the shoe? Are there differences on your end?
For us, there isn't. We look at, on the spikeless side, we talked about versatility. That's what I was going to say. Versatility is on the spikeless side, and renewability is on the spike side. So every one of our spikeless shoes has the same outsole design. So nub design to prevent rotation, nub design to also penetrate the ground when you're walking or at other points during the golf swing. And then we've taken that knowledge and moved it over to the spike side of our business. And it really about all those replaceable spikes just replace areas of the outsole that we had as a nub detail in our spikeless shoe. So it's spiked or spikeless. It's the same rotational resistance, horizontal support, and vertical propulsion. So spiked and spikeless is the same for us. So we look at renewability. You can renew your traction. If your spikes wear out, you can renew your traction on the spike side of our business, and versatility on the spikeless side of our business. Both are about performance, though.
I had Ishmael Ben Hayun on, and he works for Altair, and he does a lot with the club companies as far as AI and their ability to reduce the time of what might used to have been 18 months for product idea to development to out to alpha testing or beta testing, whichever someone's going to use. Do you guys utilize AI in your design to reduce that time, or do you do more human testing?
It's human testing. Yeah, it's we'll do some lab testing on materials, and we'll do flex testing in our factory partner in their facility. But there's nothing that we found to date that can replace human beings, golfers. Which, golfers are a different breed, as you know.
Yeah, that's really going on a limb on that one.
Yeah. And so, the the opportunity to put product on their feet. And you got to think about it. Golf is played in all weather conditions, all terrain, downhill, side hill, on the driving range where it's nice and flat and dry, and then get on the golf course where you're introducing all the elements, and, it's side hill, it's downhill, and so we need to look at it from a perspective of, traction in 3-dimension. They need to be waterproof. They need to be comfortable. It's all of those things that, but you're not going to get that unless you put it on golfers. So
what when you look at some of the average golfers that come in, they're how they're utilizing things, and I'm sure you do testing on them as far as what they're working with in the ground, and I would have to imagine something like a force plate, but I would have to think that when Martin Borgmeyer comes in, or he sends you his his numbers and his footwork and everything else, it's got to be just like, who is this guy?
It's a little different.
Little different.
Yeah, it's a little different. He knows biomechanics. Like, he knows how to leverage the ground, and he'll talk you through that. We actually, so the durometer, or the hardness of our midsole, we have to have the right balance of underfoot cushioning, but support. And the support comes from you, and you want responsiveness within that too, right? So because the golfer is pushing, and the more responsive the midsole is, and our technology is about that, our propulsion plate and how we've engineered it is about responsiveness. So you push into the ground, and you want energy and responsiveness back. For Martin, we actually make that midsole firmer because he's pushing. He's 6'5". He doesn't have an ounce of fat on him, but he's 6'5". He leverages the ground like nobody else. And we have Josh Koch out there as well. Same thing. Those guys know how to leverage the ground. So yeah, we learn a lot from him that we've incorporated into the mix. And if you look at kind of tour players, they've got the best footwork. Long drive guys, really good footwork. They know how to move. It's the recreational player that can benefit from not only better footwork, but better footwear, in that they can really. So, we talked before about our technology is about the biomechanics of the golf swing.
Mm-hmm.
So most other manufacturers, they engineer their traction to walk the course. So we've really studied, like, in points in time, what happens during the golf swing. So you need rotational resistance, you need, horizontal support, you need vertical propulsion or vertical responsiveness. So the more and the easier and more efficiently we can get that recreational player the ability to harness what they're already generating themselves. They're generating a swing speed. They're generating the push into the ground. The easier we can make it for them, the more they're going to benefit from that. I'm staying on the ground, I'm locked in, I'm loaded, and I'm pushing, and I'm getting all that back in responsiveness that I can bring to the back of the ball. So
it seems like most athletic shoes across the spectrum, from running to walking to training, basketball, golf, everything, that they have gone much more recently into very, very thick cushioning. And as I look at that, and I haven't seen a lot of golf shoes go into it, and I got to thinking about it one day sitting in traffic. Why, I have no idea, but it's like, yeah, because if you put too much cushioning, you're either pushing down and you're not getting that response, or you're just going to continue to sink. You want to be as close to the ground as you can.
Yep.
I would think that as far as from the coaching aspect, I would, and thinking of what students are telling me and what I want them to do, I'd want them to feel that ground resistant.
Yeah. That the analogy that we use is running in sand,
mm-hmm.
where it's nice to run in sand, right? It's, you're kind of strolling along the beach, but the ground's moving out from underneath you. So your body actually has to work harder, right? You're burning more calories because you're not getting any responsiveness from the ground. So with golf footwear and what we're doing with outsole and midsole technology, we want to make sure that we deliver the balance between that nice underfoot support, but also responsiveness. You need to get that energy out. You need to get that. You're pushing into the ground. It's Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You push, you want to get that back. You want to get that back in responsiveness and energy that you can use for the golf swing. So,
is that something that's proprietary that you guys have found or utilize a system, or is that something that you can get into a little bit here without giving up the
no.
secret sauce?
It's the secret sauce is how we construct the shoe, which is it's patent pending, and so we have a cavity in our outsole, and the graphite propulsion plate that's there is sandwiched between two layers of EVA foam. Okay, we call it PMX foam, but it's EVA foam. And what happens is when you put pressure on the shoe, that cavity opens. Also, the air pockets in the EVA foam, they move out from under the foot. And then when you release that pressure, the cavity closes, the air pockets come back under the foot, and you get that back in responsiveness and energy return. So it's pretty cool. Easy. It's just how we construct it is what we protect. That's in every single one of our shoes, spiked or spikeless, men's, women's. We talked about Martin Borgmeyer making the midsole firmer for him because he's
pushing so hard.
He pushes so hard. But for our women's product and our junior product, we actually make our midsole softer. And the reason for that is so you've got a smaller frame, you're not pushing with the same amount of force, but you still want to get that same responsiveness. So all of our smaller sizes, all of our women's product, all of our youth product has a softer midsole that you can get the same responsiveness as a Martin Borgmeyer would get. So
it's kind of it's ratioed based off of what somebody of that physical stature would put into it.
Exactly.
And it graduates up for somebody who might be. And does that do so in the size of shoe as well?
It does. So the foot can perceive a 10-degree durometer difference. So if durometer just would be the firmness or the hardness, right? The foot can perceive a 10-degree difference. So with our men's product, for our smaller product and women's product, we make it 10 degrees softer than our men's product, just so you get that response.
Very cool.
Yeah.
When you're looking at designing a shoe or on a next model or a model that's going to come out in a couple of years from now, and you look at if you're competing against A, B, and C company, and A, B, and C company are going to some of the same wholesalers and some of the same or similar I'll call it components of the shoe. How do you well, you just told me how do you differentiate, at least in one level, but as far as pieces that you're utilizing, how do you go out and with technology changing so much and stay on top of that world to maybe find the next greatest thing that's going to revolutionize the shoe world? And still run your day to day, because as fast as you guys are growing, I mean, there's only so much time in a day and you only have so much energy that you can put into this, even if you're there 16, 18 hours a day. And I'm just curious how you stay on top of technology, and as it's revolutionizing your industry, I would have to imagine as fast as it's doing it for drivers.
We look at it just like the equipment companies look at it. We work pretty closely with our factory partner. They have vendors that are calling on them with new technologies. We have vendors that are calling on us with new technologies. We might see something in a different product category altogether. We might see something in the automotive world that, hey, what about that here? Our next I won't point that out to you. But our next development is it came from another industry, and we're going to look at it as, um, it's we're the the solution is the same, but how we solve it is the innovation. It's the how we can solve the problem in a more efficient, better manner is what we want to do as a company. And the nice thing we have going for us as a brand is we are small and nimble right now, and we can get product to market so much faster than the bigger brands. It's like turning the Titanic at those bigger brands. For us, it's like the tugboat. We're we can move. Pretty quickly from one season to the next. So
I came up with that question because as I read and studied or read the Isaacson book about Steve Jobs, and I think they told the story in there about how the mouse got developed, and I don't remember if it was when HP called Apple when they were still in their infancy and said, hey, they had a department where they would work on, or HP, I could have it wrong, but I'm just going to use HP just for the sake of the argument, that they had a department that they would work on creating new things, or they had a product development section that was kind of top secret, or, the classified area. But they would invite the Apple people, the Jobs and the Wozniaks, over and say, hey, let us show you this stuff because you guys are pretty creative. Here's what we have. And I think the one guy had the little box with the ball inside of it, and he was trying to figure out how to make it what became the mouse. And I think there was a collaboration there. So I always wondered in golfing world how that happens. And
that's exactly how. Yeah, it's and there may not necessarily be you have companies that are calling on you that may not know what the end use is, but they know that this is a really cool and different material that it's going to end up somewhere. They just need to go out and, bang on enough doors before we have material shows twice a year that we obviously attend. But, it's not work for us, it's like we're interested in this, and we want to keep, bringing really cool product to market. So
I'm always curious to find out, and I had 3 Ping engineers on this show, and I asked them, and you guys are a little different because they're known to be an engineering company, but since Paul and Eric and Marty have been there, they have created some fantastic golf clubs. And I asked them, I said, how do you take an engineering mindset, yet you're able to come up with creative designs? Because it's very difficult to just shut that off and then go into, you're very structured in the engineering section, numbers oriented, etc. And then to go into the abstract of the creative mind can be a very difficult thing to just turn on and turn off.
Yeah.
And Eric said that they plan for it. I mean, they schedule it. We're going to have a creative session for this week, and just if you have ideas, jot them down. And when you come to it, let's all sit at a table and throw them together. You guys, would you deem yourself more of as you have a functional, design your shoe around functionality first, and then the beautiful design that you have.
Yeah.
Would you say that you have the structured mindset first, and then you work on the creativity second, or how do you marriage those two within your company? I guess is what I'm trying to get to.
That's a really good question. I think for us as a brand, it is the partnership that I have with our co-founder and creative director, Mike Clancy. Mike is super creative. He and I hit it off right away. We've worked together now, close to 10 years. And I'm the pragmatic problem solver kind of guy. I like to put it on my feet, go out, play in it. This works, this doesn't work. Mike is always looking at the next thing, the next best material, the next, design direction. He's about, he has an art background and a design background and an engineering background, and he puts it all together. He's, we're the good balance of left brain, right brain. We've just kind of put it all together in one, and we can give each other a hard time, and but he challenges me and I challenge him. It's not like there's no compromise in what we do. It's always like, Mike, this is where I'm coming from. And he'll go, okay, all right, I know where you're coming from. Let me come back with something. And normally what he comes back with is something better. It's that synergy that, it's kind of an overused term, but, we just have the right balance of, we've got, there's enough experience there. There's enough, energy. There's enough creativity there that at the end of the day, we're normally in sync. But that's how we end up at the end of the day. We bring some pretty unique and different stuff to market.
Well, it seems like that's a very common way that the creative, a lot of creative things that have structure at its foundation. And this is going to sound very crazy, but like I said, I watch a lot of documentaries and growing up in the 70s and 80s and that rock and roll era. I watch a lot of the bands and there's always somebody in the band who's can write very well, somebody in the band who keeps them structured, and they just sit there and they bounce these ideas off. I think the Leonard Skinner documentary, they would go out and rent a house out in the middle of the country, nowhere, and they would sit there for weeks at a time and just hammer out these songs. But it seems to be a repetitive thing from these classic rock groups or all types of music and products and companies that seem to have that similar dynamic.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how, that's exactly. And we've actually talked just recently that we're getting bigger and we have to somehow maintain that competitive advantage of being nimble, being creative, and being able to try stuff without, somebody coming along saying, no, we can't do that. We shouldn't do that. We can't afford to do that. It's kind of, we want to make, that's what's special about our brand. So we've got to keep going in that direction. We got to maintain.
Yeah. It's like that's the nucleus, it's your, what keeps you guys, separate. It keeps I guess it's like a childhood curiosity that keeps you going and makes it fun. That you said you're not grinding to get up and go to work every day.
No, absolutely not. No. I'm making golf shoes for a living. One other thing, Pete, is that our sample size happens to be my size, so I get to try everything. My partner's an 11.5, so he's always a little bit jealous that I'm able to try product before, because we develop product in a size 9 and then we grade it out, accordingly. But so I'm always the first to try it. So
you're the self-volunteering guinea pig.
I throw myself on the sword for the good of the company. That's what I say.
This is one thing that strikes me as crazy with all the different shapes of people and in particular their feet. You've got wide, you've got high arch, long foot bed, long toes, short toes. Some people have a combination of both.
Yeah.
When you design a pair of shoes or you have a shoe company in general, how do you design a product that is going to appeal to the most people when people are different across the spectrum to begin with?
Yeah. Really good question. I'm going to add to that too, in that there isn't, on the manufacturing side, there isn't any standards. There's no universal. There's general practice. But what I mean by that is what we make product around is a last, right? So it's the plastic shoe form that holds the shape of the product, but also will give you the fit of the product. Our size 9 can be different than every other size 9 that's out there. The stick length, the width, the ball girth measurement, the cone of the last, they could all be different from one brand to another. But we go to a last company and ask them that question, but there's no uniform standard from one brand to the next. So then you have the consumer that walks in, and to your point, they have different foot shapes, and it's like, oh, okay, you've got all these variables of just human beings, and then you have all the variables on the manufacturing side. So It's a challenge. What we try to do is fit as many people as we possibly can. We do offer from a men's size 4 to a 14. Um, Women's from a 5 to a 10. And then we offer a medium and a wide. In Asia, we do an extra wide. So we try to get as many foot types as possible, but we still can't fit everybody. We're just trying
No,
to
you're
get,
not gonna.
yeah, we're just trying to, yeah. So,
Many years ago I read Weston Price wrote the book Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's kind of the genesis, I would say, of many of the paleo, primal, keto diets of today. And that Dr. Price was a dentist, and he wrote this, I believe, in the 20s. And what I guess he had this or he had the theory that people who had not been touched at that time, or had limited connection to modernization,
yeah.
that they had the dental structure on them was basically flawless. And so he went around the world to 7 areas. He went to the Swiss Alps. He went to I think the Zulus in Africa, the tribes there. He went to the Celts in northern UK. I think the Pima Indians, the Maoris in the Pacific Southwest, and found out that their rate of cavities was like less than 1%. Their heart disease rate and their cancer rate were in the low single digits, like almost unheard of comparatively when today. And across the spectrum, you had like Eskimos eating high fat diets, you had Maoris eating high tuber diets. Not that's kind of off topic here, but what I'm getting at is he started, and in his book he had pictures of foot structure of people who had spent most of their time void of restricted footwear, meaning that their big toe actually followed the line of from the heel through the arch, and that it was almost pointed. Your right foot was almost pointed to the left, and then the middle toe was lining up with the inner part of the arch, so that the toes were spread to support the structure.
Yeah.
Yet modern day shoes seem to be more pointed or more tapered as you get towards the toes, and it seems to work in the opposite order of what the natural order of the foot design is. So I guess my question is, when you design things like that, in particular the functionality part, do you take the anatomical structure of the foot, and
Yeah.
then obviously you mentioned the biomechanics aspect
In trends
yes.
too. Yeah. So remember when we all went to work and we wore suits and dress shoes?
Mm-hmm.
You talk about constricting your foot. Well, we're not doing that anymore. There's very few. There's bankers and lawyers that are doing that. But footwear has gotten more casual. More casual leads to softer leathers. More casual leads to athletic footwear being able to be worn to work. So you're wearing athletic footwear, or a more casual footwear during the day for a greater time during the day. So feet have actually gotten wider and longer. So that spread is happening because there isn't that constriction anymore. So we have to accommodate that. We have to, offer a wide width, offer, a 14. When we pay for this tooling, we'll offer a 15. But it's coming. Like, it's just people's feet are getting bigger and wider, and that's okay. We just need to react to it as a brand.
But there seems to be, at least in the fitness craze, because I like to work out, and I have for many years, and it's has made its way into the golf. I mean, now you go to any tour event, and they all have their trailers out there, and all the guys and the girls are all working out on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But as far as the fitness world, it seems that a lot of them are going to more of the zero drop or the lower. There's not as much raise in the heel. Is that a trend that you see making its way into the golf world?
Yes, we've seen some brands that have done that. But your foot is not a zero drop foot. Like, if you want to get flat to the ground, you need to have some offset between the heel and the forefoot. So it's working. And we've experimented with that. It's just, if you're looking at, foot in contact with shoe in contact with ground, you're better to have a little offset between the heel and the forefoot.
Is there a reasoning for that, either anatomically or biomechanically or
Just
any other that?
just look at the anatomical shape of the foot. That
Mhm.
the ball of the foot and the heel. There's a difference probably, but most people it's between 8 and 10 millimeters. Some would go as high as 12 millimeters. Our offset is about, I think the last time we looked at it is about 10 millimeter offset from heel to toe, or heel to forefoot, not necessarily toe, but heel to forefoot. Yeah.
You had mentioned some that there is no industry standard for shoe size or development and width and all those other things. Yet some shoe companies they will have different size. I mean, the same size will be different from model to model. And looking at all your shoes and talking to just some friends I know who have worn them, they say no, it's very uniform from model to model, brand to brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would think that would be the better way to do it, would it not?
That's absolutely the better way to do it. So we in our golf footwear, spikeless, from men's size 4 to men's size 14, same last. So if I wore in one style, if I wore a size 9, I know that if you launch a new style, I'm going to grab that one. It's going to fit me just like the one I wore, in the prior season. Or if I go to a spiked, it's going to be something that I can depend on. But, the last thing you want to do is, especially at retail, but now that we've got a lot of direct to consumer business, the last thing you want to do is put doubt in the consumer's mind that, does this fit too small, or is it too small for my, or is it too big? Like, and I got to wear it around for a little while. But, if you know with confidence, you can go in and say, I'm a size 9 in Payntr golf, and and with confidence be able to walk out with, that same size. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, because I think I've had Sasha McKenzie on multiple. I think he's been on 3 more than anybody else on my show. I've been very lucky. I've become friends with Sasha, and I know that he had done a lot of study on shoes and the ground reaction or the ground forces. And one thing he said when I think we were at coach camp, I asked him. He said, "Look, the most important thing is that you wear the same style shoe, because the way that you learn to push into the ground, it's better that you have something consistent as opposed to a certain thickness sole on one shoe, and then you play the next day and it's half that thickness. It's going to." He said it can throw a monkey wrench into the timing of your swing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds like what you guys are doing is somebody has an 001 model and they wore that for a season, and then they want to go to the 004. They can just say, "Hey, I wore this." Everything, it's going to be the cut similar. So I know I wear a 10.5. So all I got to do is order a 10.5 again, and I know it's going to fit well.
Yep. Yeah. Consistency is key. And it's not like it happened by accident. We've developed the line that way. The other thing that we want to make sure of too is that our spikeless design, the outsole design, this that I've shown you, that's the same with every model. That same design is in every model that we offer. We differentiate with, either material differences in the upper or footbed or midsole, but the traction story is the same. Now, contrary to that, you could go to another brand and their, $90 product has a different spike placement, a different nub element, to us, it's like we believe in our traction technology because it's based on the biomechanics of the golf swing. So why would we change from one model to the next? If it works for one, it's going to work for all. And we believe in that technology. Where if you can go to another brand, and that's what confuses golfers when they go, and even if they stay within one brand and they lift up shoes and they're like, I don't know. I don't know. Why is this different than that? Why is this spiked and this is spikeless? And there's no continuity to it. So for us, it's, if we believe in this traction technology is going to deliver a performance advantage, Why wouldn't we offer that in every shoe that we offer? So,
Do you think that's an advantage of being a smaller company right now, where the others might be so big that they've got each brand, model might have a separate division to where you don't have one section talking to another?
I think, yeah, I think it has to do with that. And to your point, where they've been in the business longer than we have, they may have carryover product. They may have product that's been designed by somebody else that they keep going. But
Mm-hmm.
for us, we set out to say, okay, we believe in this. And it also shows you that those other brands, it's not necessarily grounded in the biomechanics of the golf swing. Those outsoles could be great for walking the course, but not necessarily great for the biomechanics. What's happening during the golf swing. And if you think about it, if you slip when you're walking, God forbid if you slip when you're walking on the golf course. But if you slip during the golf swing, that's going to adversely affect your score, and you're not necessarily going to be happy. So for us, we want to not only give you a performance benefit, we want there to be consistency and continuity in what we bring to market. So
I wanted to ask you to get into a little bit about the design of the shoe itself. So there's the outer portion, and when we've talked about the sole, but I'm talking about the top portion, the different material. There's mesh. There's it's not leather. I'm drawing a blank. Is it leather?
Yeah.
Or is
so
it synthetic leather?
Yeah. So we use three different materials. We use a full grain leather, which is your traditional upper material for golf shoes and dress shoes. Then we use a microfiber, and the advantage of a microfiber is it has the same characteristics or the same benefit of a full grain leather, with that there's breathability. But a microfiber, there's breathability, is water resistance. It's stronger than a full grain leather, a natural leather, and it's lighter in weight than a full grain leather. And then the last thing we use is a woven jacquard. So it's a textile. And when we talk about it's an engineered woven jacquard, we couldn't just take a running shoe textile and put it in a golf shoe. We want to make something that's lighter in weight, but we incorporate into the weave of the jacquard a TPU thread that gives you lateral stability, because obviously golf is a lateral sport.
Yeah, and the ones that I've seen, and I've seen friends playing them, and I never got into the softer textile shoes because, I mean, I played professional golf, so I do and still have a fair amount of swing speed for someone over 50. At least I'd like to think so. But just in my own mind, I could never wrap my head around those shoes that were the cloth, I used to call them, because they just never looked like they were stable enough.
Exactly. Yeah, you're moving around in there. You're moving off the outsole, and that's the worst thing you could possibly have. So that's why if we're going to do a textile, it's going to be a jacquard where we can incorporate some type of support.
Yeah, and I can see that for most of your average golfers who are playing maybe on Saturday and Sunday, or just one day a week, and maybe in a league 9 holes during the week where they're not, when they're swinging at 90 some miles an hour with their driver. But once you start getting 105, 110, 115, or 20, I played many years ago when I was still touring and playing around the country. I was in Detroit for the Buick Open, and I was playing with Joey Kosher, the hockey guy, because he was with the Red Wings. So when I went up there, we had mutual friends, and they said, you want to keep sharp and place to practice while you're up there, call Joey. So I did, and we played. He didn't tell me, but his buddies told me, because he was built like a bull. I mean, almost had no neck. He was so strong. It's just his physical build. But you could just imagine a hockey player built like a battering ram. And they said he blows out 3 pairs of shoes a summer because he would swing so hard. And in playing with him, he did. I mean, his footwork, he looked like a long drive guy. Those things were moving everywhere. Jesus. Just interesting what you see when you're out there on the road and playing, and the different types of people that you play with, and pro-ams and things like that. Is leather one of the classic materials? Is that making it's slow exit as things like the micro suede come on and the newer materials?
Yeah, for sure. It would, God, when I started the business 30 years ago, everything was leather. There wasn't, we probably had, one model, two models that were a synthetic, not even a microfiber, a synthetic that didn't breathe. So it was like, you're making a sweat box.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else was leather. But now with the development of microfibers that give you the same breathability and the same durability as a leather, the same, comfort of a leather, um, uh, but they're lighter in weight. That there's, leather will probably, I think there'll always be a market for it. But we're using more and more microfibers for sure.
Yeah, I guess that would have to be extremely important, in particular for a guy like you and in your position as you're designing the shoe, that the leather or the breathability of the microfiber, because the leather, it's a natural product, but it's going to hold moisture in more. And when you're looking at, okay, well, how do I get this shoe to breathe, as you mentioned, because they're in it for 4 hours while they're playing. If they're walking, they're moving, obviously they're sweating, and then, an hour before, maybe an hour or two after, as they go hang out at the range or with friends at the grill.
Yep.
But getting the moisture out, and as also keeping the water and the elements from getting in. It's like, well, you're going to punch holes in leather is the only way I can think of or have seen to get airflow in there.
Yeah.
But now you've got water that can get in. That was one question in my own mind that I wanted to ask you about, the difference between the micro suede and the leather, and the challenges that leather would have without as much breathability, as you're trying to work a dual goal of water out, keeping water out and evacuating water from inside.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, water vapor, like perspiration, is a smaller molecule than a water droplet. So, how a microfiber works is exactly how natural leather works, and how, a membrane like a Gore-Tex works. The structure of it allows for that smaller vapor to pass out of it, but doesn't allow that bigger molecule to get into it. We take our leather instead of but what you'll find with some shoemaking is they'll take a natural leather and they'll put stiffeners or they'll put cement behind the leather to keep that stand up in the shoe, to keep it looking nice.
Because leather stretches. It's going to stretch.
Exactly. You get wrinkles in it, it'll break down over time. And then it doesn't look nice after you've worn it, 5 or 10 times. But what we want to do is we don't want to inhibit what's going to happen naturally. So we don't want to put a cement or backers behind our leather or even our microfiber, because we want that perspiration, that vapor to pass out. We call it the environment inside the shoe. You keep water out because that's not going to be comfortable, but you also need to move perspiration out too. One of the things we do with our, I don't know if you can see the outsole on our cyclist outsole. So we actually perforate the outsole, and then we perforate the tongue. You can see the tongue has perforations to it. So the natural pumping action of the foot when you walk, that forces vapor to go out through the tongue. So whether we're doing,
pretty cool.
So whether we're doing a spikeless shoe like this, where we have this areoprene that's highly ventilated in the tongue area, but also we want it to go out through the bottom of the shoe or up out of the shoe. We don't want that vapor to sit in there. But then what we do with that, when we perforate this outsole or ventilate the outsole, we put a waterproof breathable membrane above that on the midsole, so that water can't get in, but perspiration can move outside of the shoe. Because
that's very cool.
Yeah, you if you play with dew on the ground in the morning, you want to keep water out. But if you're in the desert and you're playing for 4 hours, you want to get perspiration out too. So, that adds to, the comfort of the product. The environment inside the shoe is extremely important.
Yeah, especially if you're prone, like myself, you're prone to athlete's foot. And I had a lot of friends that played that we all had the same issue. As soon as we're done, we're in the sandals because you got to air your foot out.
Yeah.
And I
And you're
always wonder,
probably putting
how
the
do you get
same
around
shoe
that?
back on the next day if you're
Uh-huh.
playing every day, right? You don't have the
Yeah.
chance that shoe hasn't dried out and you're putting it back on the next day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the southeast where I am, and it's humid. It's like we're in the winter now, but we get rain every 3 days, and because all the grass is dormant, there's nothing to soak it up. So even after 3 days of no rain, you go out to play and it's very wet, and your feet are still sweating. I mean, it's 55, 60 degrees out. You're still sweating. It's like this is a bad combination.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's the challenge of making golf shoes. It makes it fun,
It is your guys the mantra, or maybe even some rude way to say it, tagline would be performance multiplied. Is that the has to do with as how you guys studied reaction with the ground and the 3D movement, or does that have to deal with something else?
No, it's more like, so if golfers go into a golf facility or a golf retail and they're looking for golf footwear, the three most important thing they look for is comfort, traction, and waterproofness. All three of those things are about, for a manufacturer, are all about performance. So it needs to be waterproof, needs to be comfortable, and it needs to have good traction. So we, as a brand, we want to be able to deliver multiple performance advantages in each of those categories, but in each of our shoes. So we want to make sure they're comfortable first and foremost. We want to make sure that they have the best traction for both walking the course, but also the golf swing. And obviously you're playing in all kinds of weather conditions, so they have to be waterproof. So, yeah.
Do you? We talked early on as you guys, your perspective or thoughts on shoes was it was an integral piece of your equipment, and the golfing world in general, and leading up till now, viewed it more as an accessory or a fashion item.
Yeah.
Do you think that your perspective is going to be adopted by some of your competition or the rest of the golfing world? I do. I think it's really everyone's going to start gravitating that way.
Yeah, I think so. I do. Yeah. I mean, there'll be some brands that will continue to focus on fashion, and that have been successful. But what we look at from our brand is we look at the frequency of play for golfers as that's our target. The more you play, the more you want to get better, the more you spend in golf. It's the early adopters they're playing 50 times a year or more, right? So they have to have the best driver, the newest driver. How many drivers launched this week? 4 different new drivers, right? So and they're telling everybody. They're showing it to everybody. Yeah. So for us, that target consumer is, if you play 25 times or more a year, that's our guy. That's our that's our woman. That's who we want to come to our brand, because you're looking for a performance advantage. You're looking to improve your score every time you go out there. So, I got the driver, I got the latest ball, I got the new iron. If I can add to my performance journey with my footwear, Payntr Golf is the place to come.
I wanted to touch on something that you had said earlier, but before somebody that listens to this as the show's growing, happily it's growing, but I don't want anyone to take it the wrong way. And I want to clarify it on while I got you on here, is you said that part of the design of the spikeless and even to the spike shoe was to have a reduction of rotation of the feet during the swing. It is. Can you elaborate on that a little more? Because I know that some coaching troll or some golf troll that's out there, and we've seen them all, is going to say, well, your feet should rotate, and Lee Cox, Martin's coach, is teaching the feet rotate and they get out of the way. And I just want to make sure that somebody out there doesn't say, well, don't buy Payntr shoes because if you're trying to hit it longer and they're anti-rotational shoes. I don't think that's the case at all. And I just wanted you to be able to clarify that to someone who's listening.
When we talk about rotational resistance, what we're talking about is when you turn, we want you to, we don't want you to slip out. You have your feet slip out from under you.
That's what I thought you were saying.
Yeah, we're not going to inhibit what's going to happen naturally. And most of the time when you're rotating your foot, you're lifting your foot. If your foot's in contact with the ground, we want it to stay in contact with the ground. Because again, we talked about, the push into the ground. The more surface area you have, the longer you have it, the more speed you're going to be able to generate. As soon as you get it off the ground, you're going to lose that. But for us, rotational resistance is more about, we don't want you to slip out, your feet to slip out from under you during the golf swing. Yeah.
Yeah, you see that quite a bit, but especially with the trail foot is they shift too soon and then they try to push. And if they're in the soft spikes, the traditional soft spikes, that foot's sliding back and then, who knows where the ball's going to go.
Exactly.
Hopefully they don't hurt themselves.
You think about it, when there used to be a posted spike, when the post could go into the ground, there were still guys that would talk about rotating, like moving your feet out of the way, and that took an effort of, you needed to, uproot and then move your foot, right? Because when you got a posted spike in there and it's, 10 to 12 millimeters long and it's sticking into the ground, you have to work hard to get that to rotate. But now it's easier. But we want to make sure that your feet are not slipping out from under you. It's the challenge.
Are you getting a number of inquiries from agents of a lot of the players, the world-class players around the world that inquiring about your guys' stuff?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
And I know you can't talk.
And we're answering every phone call.
Well, hopefully in Orlando in a couple of weeks, you're going to be signing a number of them.
We will announce a couple of folks down there. Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah, we've already got Mike Ware and we've got, Martin Borgmeyer. We'll have a couple of guys on the PGA Tour. We will have a couple of women on the LPGA Tour. So yeah, we're expanding pretty quickly. It's nice.
Very cool.
It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
What do you see, as we touched on, is suppliers come to you or product companies come to you and say, hey, we think we have this material. We don't know how it would be utilized in your field, but we think it would. What do you, because you guys have a better understanding of the periphery than most other aspects of the industry, be it balls or equipment or whatever. And you seem to have a very, very good handle on that. It's part of your DNA. At least that's what it sounds like. What do you see as the next big thing coming as far as the golfing or as far as the shoes concerned, outside of what you guys have already done? Is there anything on the horizon or anything that you sit there and think, man, I wish I could figure out a way to do X?
Yeah. Other than, the natural progression of lighter, faster, that we'll work on that. We're going to take our, propulsion technology and try to figure out how to make it better than it is today. Other than that, it's, just improve on, the biomechanics aren't changing, how people are, and more, like, this more and more. I don't know if it's, let me back up for a second. I don't know if it's that coaches are talking about it more, or they're emphasizing it more, but everyone's talking about using the ground as leverage, that, there's a reason why you've got guys like Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas that are some of the longest hitters on tour, but they're pretty small in stature. What does JT weigh? Like 150 pounds, right? I mean, and Rory's not that big, but when you look at their swing, they push and they get that back in energy return. They get that back in responsiveness, and they bring that to the ball. They bring that speed to the ball. So if we could teach that, in conjunction with, and it for us, we talk about our technology being a speed technology. Like, we're bringing more speed. It takes a while to tell our technology story. But once people get it, it's like, once a Martin Borgmeyer gets it, he won't wear another golf shoe ever. So
I saw one of his posts the other day where he had them in red. I'm like, now that's a cool pair of shoes right there.
We follow his color palette from his apparel line, which is red. It's like a bright blueberry and a bright orange. Yeah. So he's a 13 wide. Could you fit into those? Maybe we could.
No, that's too. I've got a narrow-ish foot. I'll call it that. As I've gotten older, it's spread a little bit, and as you said, since we're not in dress shoes as often, I think I'm still narrow-ish, but I'm not. There's no way I could wear a wide. I'd be swimming.
Yeah, or a 13.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the 30 years you've been in the industry, if you could go back to the young Mike that was working in the store and always playing around with the shoes and had a fascination.
Yeah.
And he didn't know who you were, and you walked in that store. What would you tell him?
That's a good question. I think just the same thing that I learned at retail is you listen to the consumer, and for me, we've always listened to the athlete. The other thing is you just, even though I'm a golfer, I take my personal preference out of decisions that we make, because, I learned early on that just because I felt it doesn't mean that it's what I'm not the consumer for every one of our products. And if you get outside of that thinking and you get, you listen to the athlete and you listen to the consumer, and try to look at what are the needs and what are the problems that you're facing, and try to solve some of those, you're going to be pretty successful. So it's worked for me for a long time. And it continues to work. It's kind of, like I said, it's been a complete joy being in this business for as long as I have. So
yeah, it's like, my dad used to ask me, he said, if you could change one thing in your life, what would it be? And I used to have to think about it sometimes. And he'd say, well, if you got to think about it that long, you're probably doing pretty good and you're doing better than most. So just keep working at it. It's just that if you're not getting the level you want, but you wouldn't change anything except getting there faster. Well, then I think maybe that's just youth speaking, and you don't have the patience to realize and enjoy the process, as they all say on TV. I got on my process, but enjoy the process while you're going through it. Smell the roses a little bit.
Exactly. I think one of the biggest satisfactions I have is we have 3 children. All 3 of our children, they're all grown now. They're 29, 30, and 32. All 3 of them, they're unique individuals. All 3 of them have chosen vocations that they all love. And I think I've had something to do with that. Like, they've been able to witness, my work history, and like, Dad makes golf shoes. That's pretty cool. And Dad's not very stressed that often. There's like, you can combine your love of something with somebody's going to pay you to do it. Why not do that? You can choose the other route too, which is, as long as you're happy, though, as long as you're, you love what you're doing, it would never be, for me, never be considered a job.
Well, I told plenty of younger people who I wouldn't say I'd mentored them, but I would, I have a fair amount of younger students, teenagers of 20s and through their 20s, college age, and then out might have played pro or whatever they were doing. And they would get frustrated with the golf, because obviously the higher up you go, the harder it gets. And, you're used to winning as a junior, and now you're not winning as much in college, or you're struggling to win. And then you go to the pro ranks, and it's like, I'm getting my brains beat in.
Yeah.
I think Bud Still, that played many years ago, went to Arkansas and was very good friends with John Daly. Dean Pappas told him, after Dean had graduated, and Dean was a very, very good player, came back and said, Bud, be prepared when you graduate to get your brains beat in by guys you never heard of at the pro level, which I thought was very, very interesting. I experienced that pretty strongly. It's like, who is this guy? You walk past him on the range, doesn't look like he could break 80, and he's just shot 64. There's a lot of that, or at least there used to be. Now all the young kids' swings, they all look so technically perfect.
There's a lot of talent.
But
a lot of talent
yes.
there. Yeah.
I tell some of these kids, I say, look, you're the one that makes the decisions for your life now, especially the kids that get out of college. I said, if you're not happy, you're the one that made the decision to put you there. Now, there's a difference between not being happy because you're at a new, you're learning something new, whether it's you just turned pro or whatever, you just went to college or you're struggling or whatever.
Yeah.
But, learning, making a decision for something you want to do in your career. And I said, look, if you don't want to play pro golf, that's fine. I'm not your parent, but you're the one who makes the decisions. Keep that in mind in your life. That'll be the last lesson I give you as far as this. I'm now a cheerleader because what you're doing is so hard. But if you're not happy, you're the one that made the decision to do that. Maybe you may just consider maybe that you're not doing what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the next decision you make is not the last decision you make. You can try stuff, and if it doesn't work out, try something else. You
can pivot.
Nothing wrong with that. No.
I mean, some of the best ever have done that, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, let's look at the top, one of the most noted, followed guys to Elon Musk. I mean, he owns a car company, he owns a rocket company, it's like look what he did.
How about Karsten Solheim? Karsten Solheim didn't start until he was 55. Like, he didn't start a whole other. I mean, he's in the Golf Hall of Fame, and he didn't start in the industry until he was 55 years old, right? So, hey, if it doesn't work, try something else.
That's right. Just do something that you enjoy. You'll find it.
Yeah.
Yes, and it will work. And like you don't have to have that Goggins mindset to go to work every day.
I do.
I don't have to have it to come on a podcast. I tell my girlfriend, I say, my hope, one of my biggest hopes is that the podcast does well enough that I could do this every day. I do one a week now. We launch every Sunday morning. Or publish every Sunday. I said, it'd be great if I could do it every day, because I sit there and I get to talk to very cool and interesting people who are doing some awesome stuff.
Well, it's a great show.
And I get to learn more about what they do. So it's for me, it's like, no, it's not hard.
No, it's just a conversation, and an enjoyable conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. I write down maybe 10 questions that I think would be interesting, and then I just shut up and let people who are the experts talk and get out of the way. And then that'll send me on a tangent somewhere else. But that's my creative. That's for me, that's my creative mind, how it works.
I have talked more than I normally talk in a day. So
that means I've done my job well. I must be getting better. You have a few minutes. We'll do some. I call them emergency 9. It's just 9. They used to be random questions, but we seem to have dialed in some pretty cool ones that we kind of use the same.
Answer these without thinking. Is that what you?
That's kind of the hope, but it might take some thought. So the first one and the last one, everyone has gotten. They're just the common denominators, and the rest of them we've filtered in and out. So the first one is if you played in the Ryder Cup, or we'll say that you're going to play in your member guest and trying to get all the people riled up around the first tee, and they're going to crank out a song while you're walking up to hit your shot. What song are you going to have them play?
Oh, it's anything AC/DC. Yeah,
that seems to be
and I just showed my age there too, right?
I was on Jeff Pelizzaro's 18 Strong, and he asked me. I said AC/DC. I mean, it didn't even take me a second.
Yeah,
anything. Hollywood calls you, and they, Mike, we've watched your career for 30 years, and we think it's very cool and inspiration. We want to make a movie about your life, and we're going to let you cast whoever you want to play you. Who are you going to tell them to pick?
Well, if my wife listens to this broadcast, which I know she will, she could answer this question for me. Matt Damon, 100% Matt Damon. Yeah, I got a bromance going with Matt. So, yeah.
Okay. In the last year, the best thing you've purchased for under $1,000.
Best thing for under $1,000. New putter. Yeah, new putter. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What? I'll ask you the brand. You don't have to answer that if you don't want to give them.
No, Scotty Cameron. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's the only thing in my bag that's non-pig. Everything else is ping. It's the only thing that's
cool.
Yeah. I feel guilty about
I'm sure Eric and Paul and Marty would love to hear that.
Yeah, well, Andy Solheim's probably going to call me right after this, but if he's listening. What?
He's gonna have you at the show over in the ping booth and say, "Come on, hit this one. We're fit."
Butters. Why didn't you look?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's see. If you out of these two, which one would you pick? You could play Augusta National once, or you could get tickets to the Masters for life.
Play. Yeah, just once. Yeah.
I think I'm with you on that. I've been a dozen times, so for me, it's definitely play.
Yeah. Goodness.
So you're a golfer. This one, I always find this one interesting with golfers. Would you rather hit every fairway or never three putt again?
Never three putt.
It seems to be the common answer.
Is that it? Yeah.
When Jason Zubek was on, he answered that in about half a second, about a nanosecond. He said, never three putt.
Yeah.
I mean, he hits it. I mean, like,
that's more
Golfzilla.
Yeah.
Yes. You could sit in a golf cart and talk to anybody from history, anybody you wanted to for a couple hours. Who would it be?
Ooh. That's a good. And anyone in history.
Mm-hmm. Could be anyone from your family. Could be anybody, a famous person, anybody you want.
Probably John F. Kennedy. Yeah, JFK would be. I mean, he's
come up a couple times.
Yeah, that would be. He's a sportsman, but a statesman, and just. I don't know. I think the world changed when he left us. But yeah, I think that would be all world interesting for sure.
Yeah. I agree. A couple more. If I gave you, not that I have it, but if I had it, I
love
would.
That
if I
these
gave
are
you
coming, I'm just like, what's coming next here?
If I gave you $25,000 and first class ticket for you and your wife anywhere you can go anywhere in the world. Where are you going to go?
We're going to Italy, somewhere in Italy. We've been a dozen times. We have not been to Sicily yet. That's our next spot.
Yeah, I'm sure that'd be very cool. I was talking to somebody the other day. A friend of ours, a neighbor, had us over, and he had homemade pasta. And we were talking about and I've talked about this with a few of my doctors, that how the pasta in Italy doesn't seem to have the negative effects that the pasta does here in the U.S. And my neighbor's Italian, of course, and he said, well, this is one reason. He got it. Flour, he ordered it and got it from Italy. It was Italian, organic, non-GMO, all that stuff. And he said it's different over there. The way that the ingredients are different than they are here. And I said, that's what a couple of doctors have told me.
That's interesting.
So I guess I'm giving you the green light to go ahead and eat as much pasta as you want.
And
you don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
This one I'm very curious. This one was I came up with just for you. So the top three, because you've been in the shoe industry, the top three shoes of all time, and it can be in any sport. I know that's probably a little broad, but
yeah, the top three shoes of all time. I don't know if I could narrow it down to three.
I mean, we can do five if you want to. We make a longer list.
Nike Cortez. Probably the AJ1, Air Jordan 1.
I just watched a documentary on that.
Yeah. The Samba, the Adidas Samba,
yeah, that's a classic shoe.
Yeah. I mean, these are also in my, my wheelhouse too. The shell toe, the Adidas shell toe, I think that's pretty good.
It's a pretty good list.
That's pretty good. And that's sort of Air Force One in there too. So, yeah.
The one I might put in there was the cross trainer, the bow nose cross trainer. Did you work on that?
I did not.
Was that at your time?
Nope.
And now the last question, in your opinion, as far as golfers are concerned, who's the GOAT, greatest of all time?
Hands down, Tiger. Yeah. And I did have the opportunity to work with Tiger for 10 years, so that has no influence on my answer to that question. But
Well, I guess that would be the bonus question that now that he's left his former company, that your former employer as well, any chance that we can blow up my podcast and you can announce that he's coming to Payntr?
Oh, I wish. Yeah, I wish. I enjoyed working with him for a long time. So yeah, he's just a really
Very
cool
cool.
man. Yeah. Yeah.
Anything that you have coming up? Are you speaking? I mean, outside of the PGA show, obviously your booth again. You know, you guys are going to be down there.
Yeah.
Booth 1901.
Yep.
So everybody be sure to stop by and check out some very, very cool shoes. Try them on, see how comfortable and great they are.
Yep.
But anything else you guys have coming up? Promos or anything?
Well, we're actually outside of golf, so we have golf footwear and new golf footwear that we're going to introduce at the PGA show. But we're also going to introduce a new training category. So it's training for golf. And we've taken the same propulsion technology, you know, the common theme, using the ground. And we've incorporated a lot of, it's built on a cross-training last. You can run in it. So it has toe spring and offset and a lot of cool technology into it. But it's definitely, it's for, we have partnered with Martin to help us develop it because he spends a lot of time in the gym. But a lot of, you know, if you think about it, a lot of PGA Tour players, LPGA Tour players, they are spending as much time preparing for the golf course in the gym. So why not take our technology and hopefully, you know, make it easier for folks to train, use the ground, be comfortable when they're doing it, and have the same performance benefit in the gym as they're going to have on the golf course. So,
will it be similar that what they, for the most part of the majority of it, what they feel and the fit, they'll be able to say, hey, I've got the 002 in the golf shoe and I'm going to get this in the training shoe, and it's same.
Yep.
Concept.
Same. That was important to us. If you wear a 9 in a golf shoe, you want to wear a 9 in our training shoe. We wanted consistency there. But we'll be launching it at the PGA show. It'll be at retail March 1. And we've had an amazing reaction to it so far. So
cool. Yeah, well, when I'm down there, I'm going to try them on, figure out which color and everything else. Because I've had a pair of Ons for about 4 years now, and they're worn. My girlfriend's, you got to need a new pair of shoes, and I said I can't find it. So when I'm down there, I'll pick a pair in color, and I'll be one of your first. I'll be the new guinea pig.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
Mike, I can't thank you enough. I know you got a little bit of a cold there, and I probably went over the time that you allotted to me, but I've had a great time and learned a lot. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to look at their shoes more as equipment this year after they hear this, and hopefully we can get you some people coming to the site and coming to the stores and buying some Payntr shoes.
Well, we hope so. Yeah, and I enjoyed it very much. Yeah, I didn't feel like we were on that long. So yeah, and I look forward to seeing you, meeting you in person at the PGA show. Yeah,
absolutely. So just hang out a second, and thanks for tuning in, everybody.
You got it.